If you Google what racket does Djokovic use, you'll get two different answers. One says that he uses the Head Speed Pro. The other answer says that he endorses the Head Speed Pro and uses the Head PT113B. So why are we getting two different answers, and why does one of them include a mystery racket that none of us have ever heard of? Well, it depends on who you ask. If you head down to your local pro shop or end up talking to someone not super knowledgeable at a big box store, you'll probably hear that Djokovic uses the 2022 Head Auxetic Speed Pro. This is because in 2009, Head created this speed line of tennis rackets specifically for
Let's get ready for next
Djokovic.
tennis season, and I'm going into the website of Head to customize my own head racket.
Djokovic, who for the last couple of years was sponsored by Wilson. Fresh off his maiden Grand Slam title at the 2009 Australian Open, it seemed like Wilson simply wasn't ready to pay the big bucks to finance the rising slam champion. Presumably, this was due to existing deals with the Williams sisters and the holy Roger Federer. But there was one company that was ready to pay the big bucks. But not to Djokovic, to TennCom. Direct Tennis. Direct Tennis is a one-of-a-kind social media app to help link you with local stringers in your area. This is going to help you get a much more consistent string job than what you would get at a low-quality stringer like at a big box store, for example, but it's also going to really help you find good communication with someone who's responsive. You'll be able to see the stringer's rating to make sure that you're getting the best service for your racket, and pickup and drop off services will be available, which is something that a lot of pro shops can't even offer. So please check out the links in the description to give Direct Tennis a shot. They've been amazing, one of our first sponsors here at TennCom, and you can see that they have a major passion and love for the game of tennis.
It's 2009.
For 2009, Head won the sponsorship bid for Novak Djokovic. Djokovic would be returning to his roots as he had used Head throughout his junior career, and Head would have the chance to release an all-new line of rackets alongside the rising Serbian star. At the time, Head was in desperate need for something new to match the emerging power baseline game that was beginning to dominate men's tennis. With the Speedline, Head also debuted a rounder grip shape designed to work better with the semi-western and full western forehand grips that have become more popular, while their old rectangular grip shape, still available in rackets like the Prestige, has really fallen out of favor in recent years. So in the hands of one of the fastest men to ever cover a tennis court, the Head Speedline exploded in popularity, becoming one of the best-selling rackets of recent times. Just like how Federer is inherently linked to Wilson and Nadal to Babolat, Head wants you to think of their rackets every time you think of Djokovic. Malicious brainwashing? Maybe. Effective marketing in the capitalist society that we live in? Absolutely. But at the same time that Djokovic was laying down his unreal winning streak in 2011, people were still saying that he used the Head Speed, even though this couldn't be further from the truth. But in 2013, Wilson faced a class action lawsuit based on the premise of false advertising, where they claimed that Federer used an off-the-shelf Wilson BLX 6-1 tour when he was in fact using an older model. This is when the language began to change. Racket manufacturers had to be much more careful about the language that they were using to describe the relationship between player and racket, and so the term endorsed rose in popularity. Now, Federer endorses the RF97, Nadal endorses the Babolat Pure Aero, and Djokovic endorses the Head Speed Pro in the same way that I might endorse a massive 7-inch. Today, Head's website simply states that he recommends the Head Speed Pro. And sure, when you watch him on TV, it definitely looks like he's using an off-the-shelf Head Speed Pro, but I assure you that could not be further than the truth. So let's go over the key differences between the racket that Djokovic recommends, the Auxetic Speed Pro, versus what he actually uses, the PT113B. So the PT113B is based off an old Radical from the early 2000s. You could look at this as the iRadical or the liquid metal Radical. Those rackets that came out around that same time are mostly the same, barring some paint jobs and fake technologies that came out at the time. That said, there are a few differences with Djokovic's current racket to that old 95 square inch racket. The biggest difference up front is going to be head size. The Retail Speed Pro comes in at 100 square inches, whereas Djokovic's actual frame is a 95. The next difference is the string pattern, with the Retail Speed being an 18 by 20 and Djokovic's racket being an 18 by 19. That said, the 18 by 19 was only introduced into Djokovic's racket in 2018 alongside the extension of the racket by 0.1 inches. Another difference is the beam thickness. So the Retail Speed has a slightly thicker flat beam compared to Djokovic's PT113B. These changes combine to make the retail version of the Head Speed Pro significantly more user-friendly than Djokovic's own PT113B. The other huge difference is going to be weight. You might have seen pictures of Djokovic's actual racket where there is a ton of lead along the sides of the racket that, combined with a bunch of lead under the bumper guard and internal weights in the handle, make Djokovic's tennis racket way heavier than the Retail Speed Pro, clocking in at a whopping 350 grams strung. This is roughly 30 grams heavier than the Retail Speed Pro, and the strung swing weight is even bigger, 364, coming in at nearly 50 swing weight points higher. So what does all this weight do for Djokovic? The first thing, it makes his racket immensely stable. It's no wonder he's one of the best service returners we've ever seen. The way that he can block huge serves back down the middle is a testament not only to his amazing natural abilities, but also the way his racket is set up. It's so heavy, it takes a huge amount of force to really disrupt that racket, and that really tight string pattern means that Djokovic has a ton of directional control, so he can really make sure that ball is sent up straight down the middle into the server's feet exactly where he wants it. The Retail Speed Pro does its best to mimic these qualities without adding too much weight. We still get that tighter string pattern, but that 100 square inch head size gives you a lot more forgiveness off center, combined with a slightly thicker beam and also more of a trapezoidal beam design, which I've noticed gives you a little bit extra forgiveness. You're still getting a huge amount of stability off center and great consistency off the string bed. I love this racket on backhand returns especially, and I really get to just pretend I'm Djokovic when I'm hitting that shot. Now, if you want to copy Djokovic's racket setup at home, is the Retail Head Speed Pro your best approximation to the actual PT113B that he uses? I would say no, and the big reason for that is going to be the flex. It's quite a bit softer than its RA would indicate, leading to a pretty noodly feeling on contact, which leads to a lot of torsional flexing and doesn't feel like it's redirecting energy that efficiently. Compared to my liquid metal Radical MP, the racket that the PT113B is based on, you're getting a much more direct feeling on contact. It feels like there's a significant amount of energy return because that layup of graphite just feels a lot stiffer. The racket also feels a lot more solid, and if you want to check out how I set up my Radical, you can watch this video here. But if you're looking just for a review of my full thoughts on the Retail Speed Pro, you can watch this video.